The fourth degree of the luminous verse, for us, God suffices. One time, when a period of heedlessness coincided with my being shaken by various indispositions like old age, exile, illness, and defeat, I was overcome by a grievous anxiety that my very existence, to which I was intensely attached and by which I was captivated, would cease to be, as would the existences of all creatures. Again, I had recourse to the verse, for us, God suffices. It told me, study my meaning and look through the telescope of belief. I looked and I saw through the eyes of belief that my minuscule being was the mirror to an infinite existence, and through an infinite expansion was the means of gaining innumerable existences. It was a word of wisdom, yielding the fruits of numerous everlasting existences, far surpassing itself in value. I understood with the knowledge of certainty that due to its relation with that infinite existence, to life for an instant was as valuable as existing eternally. For, by understanding through the insight of belief that my being is the work, artifact, and manifestation of the necessarily existent, I was saved from the endless darkness of desolate fears and the pains of innumerable separations. I knew that within a temporal separation was a permanent union with the beings I loved, with which, through bonds of brotherhood to the number of divine names manifested in the acts related to living creatures in particular, I had gained a relation. It is clear that those who share the same village, town, or country, or the same regiment, commander, or master will feel a close brotherhood and warm friendship, while those deprived of such bonds feel a constant painful torment surrounded by darkness. The fruits of a tree, too, if they had intelligence, would feel that they were brothers, companions, and observers of each other. If the tree ceased to exist, or they were plucked from it, they would experience separations to the number of fruits. Thus, through belief and the relation that results from it, my existence, like that of all believers, gains the lights of myriad existences untouched by separation. Even if it departs itself, it is content, for they remain behind as though it had itself remained. Moreover, as is demonstrated in detail in the 24th letter, the existences of all living creatures, and particularly those with spirits, are like words. They are spoken and written down, then disappear. But in place of their own existences, they leave behind numerous existences which may be counted as second-degree existences, like their meanings, their similitudes and forms, and their results, and if they are blessed, their rewards and their realities. Only then do they pass beneath the veil. In just the same way, when they depart from external existence, my existence, and the existences of all living creatures leave behind them their spirits, if they possess them, and their meanings, and realities, and similitudes, and the worldly results and fruits of the hereafter produced by them individually, they leave their forms and their identities behind in memories and on the preserved tablet, and in the films displaying eternal vistas, and in the exhibitions of pure eternal knowledge, and they leave the divine glorifications offered by their essential beings, which represent them and give them permanence in the notebooks of their deeds, and their innate responses to the manifestations of the divine names and what the names necessitate, and their being extant mirrors to them, they live in the sphere of the names. They leave behind in their places numerous non-physical existences like this, more valuable than their external existences, then they depart. This I knew with the knowledge of certainty. Thus, through belief and the insights and relationship resulting from belief, one may lay claim to the above-mentioned everlasting, immaterial existences. In the absence of belief, besides being deprived of all those other existences, even one's own existence goes for nothing for oneself and is lost in non-existence. At one time, I felt great sorrow at the speedy destruction of the spring flowers. I even pitied those delicate creatures. But The above-mentioned truth arising from belief shows that such flowers become flowers in the world of meaning, each like a fruit-producing tree or a shoot in respect of the lights of existence. All those existences apart from spirit produce 100-fold profit. Their external existences do not go to non-existence, they are hidden. They are also the new forms of the permanent reality of a species. For the beings of last spring, such as the leaves, flowers, and fruits are the same as those of this spring, the difference is only apparent. I realized that the apparent difference even was to allow those words of wisdom, phrases of mercy, and letters of power to acquire numerous different meanings. Instead of lamenting, I exclaimed, "What wonders God has willed! How great are His blessings!" Thus, through the insight of belief and by being connected through belief to the Maker of the heavens and earth, I perceived from afar what a source of pride and honor it is to be the work of art of a craftsman who adorns the skies with stars and the earth with flowers and exquisite creatures and demonstrates 100 miracles in every one of his artifacts. How precious and unique it was to have been made by such a wondrous artist. The verse taught me in particular that since that wonder-working artist had inscribed in the tiny copy of man the mighty book of the vast heavens and earth, even making him a choice and perfect summary of the book, what a great honor and achievement and way of acquiring value it was for man, and that through the relation and insight of belief he could receive and lay claim to that honor. Conceiving of all beings in my mind, I formed the intention and declared through the tongues of all of them, "For us God suffices, and He is the best disposer of affairs." The fifth degree of the luminous verse, "For us God suffices." Another time, when my life was being shaken by severe conditions, it turned my attention towards life, and I saw that mine was swiftly passing. I was approaching the end of my life. It had begun to be dimmed with the oppression I suffered. But I thought sorrowfully of how, because of its important duties and virtues and valuable benefits, which are explained in the treatise on the divine name of ever living, life deserved to be very lengthy, not to be swiftly extinguished in that way. I once again had recourse to my master, the verse, "For us God suffices, and He is the best disposer of affairs," and it told me, "Consider life from the point of view of the ever-living and self-subsistent one who gives you life." So I considered it, and I understood that if one aspect of life looks to me, 100 aspects look to the ever-living grantor of life. If one of its results concern me, 1,000 of its results pertain to my Creator. In that respect, it did not require great length. In fact, it needed no time at all. To live for an instant was sufficient. This truth is elucidated together with proofs in various parts of the Risale-i Nur, so here it will be explained in 4 matters in brief and summary form. First matter. I looked in the manner the essence and reality of life look to the ever-living and self-subsistent one, and I saw that in reality my life was a collection of keys with which to open the treasuries of the divine names, and a small map of their inscriptions, an index of their manifestations, a sensitive balance, a measure of the vast truths of the universe, and a word of wisdom written to know and make known and to understand and make understood the meaningful names of the ever-living and self-subsistent one. When life's reality is this, its value increases 1,000-fold, and 1 hour of it gains the significance of a lifetime. In respect of its relation to the pre-eternal one, who has no time, life may not be considered with regard to its length or brevity. Second matter. I considered the true rights of life, and I understood that my life is a dominical missive. It invites my brothers, other intelligent creatures, to read itself. It's a place of study making known its creator. It is also a manifesto proclaiming my Creator's perfections, knowingly adorning itself in the priceless gifts and decorations bestowed on it by life's Creator. It displays them consciously, gratefully, and believingly to the peerless monarch in the daily parade. It comprehends, observes, and proclaims the thankful benedictions and glorifications of the Creator of innumerable living beings. And it makes known verbally and through the tongues of disposition and worship the beauties of the ever-living and self-subsistent one's dominicality. I understood with the knowledge of certainty that the elevated rights of life like these did not require lengthy time, and that they elevate life 1,000-fold and are 100 times more valuable than the worldly rights of life. I exclaimed, "Glory be to God! Belief is so valuable and living that it infuses with life everything it enters. It transforms the fleeting glimmer of transitory life into eternal life, dispelling the transience in it." Third matter. I considered the innate duties of my life and its non-material benefits which look to my Creator, and I saw that it acts as a mirror to the Creator of life in 3 ways. The first way. Through its impotence, weakness, poverty, and need, my life acts as a mirror to the power, strength, wealth, and mercy of the Creator of life. Yes, just as the pleasure of food is known in proportion to the degree of hunger, and the degrees of light through the degrees of darkness, and the degrees of heat through the degrees of cold, in the same way, through the boundless impotence and poverty in my life, I understood the infinite power and mercy of my Creator, who answers my needs and wards off my innumerable enemies. I understood my duties of entreaty, supplication, worship, abasement, and seeking refuge with God, and I undertook these duties. The second way is acting as a mirror to the universal and comprehensive attributes and acts of my Creator through such meanings in my own life as partial knowledge, will, hearing, and sight. Yes, I understood through the many meanings in my own life and my conscious acts like knowing, hearing, seeing, speaking, and wanting, like my size relative to the universe, but in far greater degree, my Creator's all-encompassing attributes such as knowledge, will, hearing, sight, power, and life, and His qualities such as love, anger, and compassion. Believing, I assented to them, and admitting this, I found another way leading to knowledge of God. The third way is acting as a mirror to the divine names, inscriptions, and manifestations of which are present in my life. Yes, as I beheld my own life and body, I saw hundreds of sorts of miraculous works, inscriptions, and arts, and observed moreover that I was being most compassionately nurtured. I understood therefore through the light of belief how extraordinarily generous, merciful, skillful, and gracious was the One who created me and gave me life, how wondrously powerful and, if one may say so, ingenious, provident, and efficient. I understood too what the innate duties and aims of creation and results of life consisted of, such as glorification, sanctification, praise, thanks, exaltation, affirming God's unity, and declaring His greatness and His praises. And I understood with the knowledge of certainty the reason life is the most valuable creature in the universe, and why everything is subjugated to it, and the wisdom in everyone having an innate passion for life. I understood that belief is the very life of life. Fourth matter. In order to learn what the true pleasure and happiness of life consist of in this world, I again pondered over the verse, "For us God suffices, and He is the best disposer of affairs." I saw that the purest pleasure and most untarnished happiness in this life of mine lay in belief. That is to say, my certain belief that I was the creature, artifact, and totally owned slave of a compassionate sustainer who created me and gave me life, and was in His view, and was being nurtured by Him, that I was all the time in need of Him, and that He was both my sustainer and my God, and was most kind and compassionate to me, was such a perfect, permanent, pain-free pleasure and happiness that it is indescribable. I understood from the verse just how appropriate is the saying, "All praise be to God for the bounty of belief." Thus, these four matters, that is, the reality, rights, duties, and pleasure of life, show that the more life looks to the eternally ever-living and self-subsistent one, and the more belief becomes the life and spirit of life, the more enduring it becomes, and the more enduring fruits it produces. Moreover, it becomes so elevated, it receives the manifestation of eternity, it no longer looks to the length and brevity of life. This I learned from the verse. And in the name of all lives and living beings, and with that intention and idea, I declared, for us God suffices, and He is the best disposer of affairs. The sixth degree of the luminous verse, for us God suffices. At the time, my old age was warning me of my own departure amid the events of the end of time, which in turn give warning of the end of the world and departure of all beings. My innate passionate love of beauty and fascination by perfection developed to an extraordinary degree, and I observed with extreme clarity and sorrow that death, transcendence, and non-existence were continuously causing the destruction of beings and their separation, and were pawning this beautiful world and its creatures, breaking them up and spoiling their beauty. Seeking consolation as that metaphorical love in my nature rebelled violently against this situation, I again had recourse to the verse. It told me, recite me, and study my meaning carefully. So I entered the observatory of the light verse in Risale-i Nur and trained the telescope of belief on the farthermost levels of the verse, for us God suffices, and turned the microscope of the insight of belief at its most obscure mysteries. I saw that, just as mirrors, shining objects, fragments of glass, and even bubbles reveal the various sorts of concealed beauty in the sunlight, and with their different capacities and their change and renewal, renew its beauties, and by reflecting and refracting the light, make known the hidden beauties of the sun and the seven colors in its light, so, without cease, in order to act as mirrors to the sacred beauty of the all beauties one of glory, the Son of pre-eternity and post-eternity, and to the everlasting beauties of His infinitely lovely, most beautiful names, and to renew their manifestation, these fine creatures, these lovely beings, these exquisite artifacts, come, then depart. As is explained in detail in the Risale-i Nur, supported by powerful proofs, all the shades of beauty that are to be observed on them are not theirs, but are the hints, signs, flashes, and manifestations of an eternal, sacred, and transcendent beauty which desires to be perpetually manifested and visible. Here, three of those proofs shall be alluded to briefly. First proof. The beauty of a finely worked object points to the beauty of the craftsmanship. The beauty of the craftsmanship points to the beauty of the name that was the source of the craftsmanship. The beauty of the name of the craftsman's art points to the beauty of the craftsman's attributes manifested in that art. The beauty of his attributes points to the beauty of his talents and abilities. And the beauty of his abilities points self-evidently to the beauty of his essential self and his reality. In exactly the same way, the beauty in all the fine creatures which fill the universe, all exquisitely made, testifies decisively to the beauty of the acts of the all-glorious craftsman. And the beauty of the acts points indubitably to the beauty of the titles, that is, names, that look to those acts. And the beauty of the names testifies certainly to the beauty of the sacred attributes that are the source of the names. And the beauty of the attributes testifies to the beauty of the essential qualities and abilities that are the source of the attributes. And the beauty of the essential qualities and abilities testifies self-evidently to the beauty and sacred perfection of the essence, which is the source of the acts and is qualified by the names and attributes and to the holy beauty of his reality. That is to say, the all-beauteous maker possesses an infinite beauty and loveliness which are fitting for his most sacred essence, one shadow of which has beautified all beings from top to bottom. He possesses a transcendent, sacred beauty, a single manifestation of which has endowed with beauty the whole universe, and has adorned and illuminated with its flashes the entire sphere of contingency. Yes, just as a crafted work cannot have come into existence without an act, so an act cannot occur without the performer of the act. And just as it is impossible for there to be names without the one they signify, so attributes cannot be without the one they qualify. Since the existence of a work of art self-evidently points to the act which crafted it, and the existence of the act points to the existence of the worker of the act and his title, and to the existence of the attribute and name which gave rise to the work. The perfection and beauty of the work of art point also to the beauty and perfection particular to the act which crafted it, and they point to the beauty particular to and fitting for the name of the performer of the act, and with knowledge of certainty to the beauty and perfection of his essence and reality, which are fitting for and appropriate to them. In just the same way, since it is impossible for the constant activity under the veil of the works of art in the universe to occur without the causer of the activity, and the names whose manifestations and inscriptions are visible on creatures to exist without the one they signify, and such attributes as power and will which are almost visible to exist without the one they qualify, with their limitless existences, all the works of art, creatures, and artifacts in the universe point decisively to the existence of their creator, maker, and doer, and to the existence of his names, and to the existence of his attributes, and to the existence of his essential qualities, and to the necessary existence of his most pure and holy essence. Similarly, all the different varieties of beauty, perfection, and loveliness to be seen in creatures testify with complete clarity, but in a way particular to and fitting for their sacredness and necessity to the infinite, unlimited, multifarious beauties and perfections of the acts, names, attributes, qualities, and essence of the all-glorious Maker. They point most decisively to their beauties, which far surpass those of all beings. The second proof contains 5 points. First point: relying on their illuminations and unveilings, the chiefs of the people of reality have believed and stated unanimously, despite their paths and methods differing greatly from one another, that the instances of beauty in all beings are the shadows, flashes, and manifestations of the sacred, hidden beauty of the necessarily existent one. Second point: all beautiful creatures appear caravan after caravan, and not stopping, disappear, they come one after the other in succession, then depart. Yet an elevated and unchanging beauty displays itself in the mirrors of those creatures, demonstrating certainly through the continuity of its manifestation that the beauty does not belong to the beautiful creatures, to those mirrors. Rather, like the beauty of the sun's rays is to be seen on the bubbles floating on the surface of running water, they are the lights of an eternal beauty. Third point: it is clear that just as light comes from something luminous, the giving of existence from something existent, bounty from riches, munificence from wealth, and instruction from knowledge, so the giving of excellence is from the excellent, and the bestowal of beauty is from the beautiful. It could not be in any other way. It is in consequence of this truth that we believe that all the beauty in the universe comes from the beauty of the beauteous one. The constantly changing and renewed universe describes and defines through all its creatures and the tongues of their mirror-like beings. Fourth point: Just as the body relies on the spirit and subsists through it and is animated by it, and a word looks to the meaning and is illuminated by it, and form relies on reality and acquires value through it, so this corporeal and material manifest world is a body, a word, a form which rests on the divine names behind the veil of the unseen, receiving life and vitality from them. It looks to them and is beatified. All the instances of physical beauty proceed from the non-physical beauties of their own realities and meanings, and as for their realities, they receive effulgence from the divine names and are shadows of them of a sort. This truth is proved decisively in the Risale-i Nur. This means that all the varieties and sorts of beauty in the universe are the signs, marks, and manifestations by means of names of a faultless, transcendent beauty which is manifested from beyond the veil of the unseen. However, since the necessary existence, most pure and holy essence resembles absolutely nothing at all, and his attributes are infinitely superior to the attributes of contingent beings, his sacred beauty also does not resemble the beauties of creatures and contingent beings, and is infinitely more exalted. Certainly, an everlasting beauty, one manifestation of which is vast paradise, together with all its exquisiteness and beauty, and 1 hour's vision of which makes the inhabitants of paradise oblivious to it, cannot be finite, nor have any like, equal, or peer. It is clear that the beauties of a thing are in accordance with the thing itself, and there are thousands of sorts of beauties which all differ according to the different sorts of beings. For example, beauty pursued by the eye is not the same as something beautiful heard with the ears, and an abstract beauty comprehended by the mind is not the same as the beauty of food relished by the tongue. So too, the beauties appreciated and pursued as beautiful by the external and inner senses and the spirits are all different. For example, the beauty of belief, the beauty of reality, the beauty of light, the beauty of a flower, the beauty of spirit, and the beauties of form, compassion, justice, kindness, and wisdom. Similarly, since the utter and infinite beauties of the most beautiful names of the all beauties one of glory are all different, the beauties in beings also differ. If you want to observe one manifestation of the beauties of the all beauties one's names in the mirrors of beings, take a sweeping look with the eye of the imagination at the face of the earth, supposing it to be a small garden. You will see that terms like mercifulness, compassionateness, wisdom, and justice allude to both the names and acts and attributes and qualities of Almighty God. Observe the sustenance of foremost man and of all living creatures, which arrives regularly from behind the veil of the unseen, and see the beauty of divine mercifulness. Then consider the miraculous sustenance of all young, and the 2 palms of milk hanging over their heads on the breasts of their mothers, as sweet and pure as the water of Kevser, and see the captivating beauty of divine compassion. Then observe the peerless beauty of divine wisdom, which makes the whole universe into a mighty book of wisdom, every letter of which contains 100 words, and every word of which contains 100 lines, and every line of which contains 1,000 chapters, and every chapter of which contains hundreds of small books. Then see the imperious beauty of a justice which holds the whole universe and all its beings in equilibrium, and maintains the balance of all the heavenly bodies, lofty and lowly, and supplies symmetry and proportion, the most important elements of beauty, and causes everything to acquire the optimum state, and gives the right to life to living beings, and ensures that their rights are preserved and held, and punishes aggressors. Then consider the inscription of man's life stored in his memory, as tiny as a grain of wheat, and the programs of the second lives of all plants and trees in their seeds, and the members and faculties necessary for the defense of living beings, for instance, bees' wings and their poisonous stings, and the small bayonets of thorned plants and the hard shells of seeds, and see the subtle beauty of dominical preservation and protection. Then consider the guests at the table of the earth of the most merciful and compassionate one, who is absolutely munificent, and the pleasant smells of the numberless different foods prepared by mercy, and their beautiful and various colors, and their delicious and different tastes, and the organs and members of all living creatures which assist their pleasure and enjoyment, and see the exceedingly pleasant, sweet beauty of dominical bestowal and munificence. Then consider the meaningful forms of foremost man and of all living creatures, which are opened up from the droplets of fluid through the manifestation of the names of opener and giver of form, and the attractive faces of the flowers of spring opened up from seeds and tiny nuclei, and see the miraculous beauty of divine opening and giving of form. Thus, by analogy with these examples, each of the divine names has a sacred beauty particular to it, a single manifestation of which makes beautiful the vast world and innumerable species of beings. You may see the manifestation of a name's beauty in a single flower. The spring is also a flower. Paradise is a flower yet unseen. If you can visualize the whole of spring and see paradise with the eye of belief, you may understand the utter majesty of everlasting beauty. If you respond to that beauty with the beauty of belief and worship, you will be a most beautiful creature. While if you meet it with the boundless ugliness of misguidance and loathsomeness of rebellion, you will be both a most ugly creature and will in effect be loved by all beautiful creatures.